Hey everyone, and welcome back to Pokemon Productions, and this is a very special occasion for me. A few days ago, I realised that my channel has just passed 400 subscribers. That is amazing. I wasn't sure I would actually make it to 400, but I'm glad I have. And I thank every single one of those 400 subscribers for sticking with me throughout my journey here on YouTube and just being there to watch my stuff. And I just want to thank every single one of you amazing 400 people. Now, to celebrate the occasion, I decided to review a video game that means a lot to me. It's something I played loads in my childhood, but nowadays I don't really hear that much about. And that is the Nintendo Wii game, Sonic and the Black Knight. This is one of the most unique Sonic games out there. This is the second entry in the short-lived Sonic Storybook series. It only consists of 2 games, this being the second, and the first being Sonic and the Secret Rings, which was released 2 years prior to Black Knight. So these two are connected. They are in the same series. But we're not talking about Secret Rings, we're talking about Black Knight. Join the Arthurian legend and fight in a brand new quest. Are you worthy? When the Black Knight begins terrorizing King Arthur's Camelot, Sonic and friends suit up in armor to save the Enchanted Kingdom. Armed with a legendary sword, Sonic discovers what it means to be a true knight. Wield a legendary mighty sword. Battle against up to 3 friends. Explore King Arthur's world. And I'll just show you the back of the box here. That's Sonic with his sword that he uses in the game. And there is Shadow and Knuckles as Sir Lancelot and Sir Gawain. Yeah, these games in the Storybook series, they basically take Sonic into different story worlds and turn Sonic's characters into the characters from the book. So like, for example, Sir Lancelot and Gawain are Shadow and Knuckles. And we also have Sir Percival, who is Blaze, and we also have lots of other characters as well. So basically, Sonic is pulled into the world of King Arthur by a wizard called Melina, who is trying to fight back against King Arthur, who has essentially been corrupted. He's basically become the Black Knight. And he's basically this really big, and he's been summoning summoning minions of the underworld to take over the kingdom. And so Melina brings Sonic into the world to help. And eventually, they have to find a sacred sword, which they do. They eventually find a sword called Caliburn that Sonic would wield to stop King Arthur. And the best thing, and one thing, the sword can talk. Caliburn has a mind of its own. And at first, he doesn't seem to think that Sonic's worthy of him. And he wants to train Sonic. And he just keeps on calling him Knave, to which Sonic hates. Eventually, it transcends into Knave the Hedgehog, which is quite demeaning, but still. Anyway, so Sonic then goes on a mission to find the 3 sacred swords after being sent by Nemu, the Lady of the Lake, who is actually played by Amy Rose. So Sonic needs to take on Lancelot, Gawain, and Percival, the 3 Knights of the Round Table, and collect their sacred swords, which he will then use to weaken King Arthur's power and enable him to take him down, which he does manage to do. And he even gets the scabbard of Excalibur as a prize. But that's not where the story ends. The story continues with a big twist. Once Melina gets her hands on Excalibur's scabbard, she uses the power to make the kingdom eternal and cause it to never end. It was basically, Melina was planning this since the beginning. she's basically spreading her power across the kingdom, turning it into to her own personal domain. She wanted to make a kingdom that would never, ever end. And she even manages to create... So Sonic has to team up with the Knights of the Round Table to stop Mileena before she goes too far. They all have to use their sacred swords to form a barrier around Castle Camelot, which they manage to do. And it is cool because you actually get to play as the Knights of the Round Table in those segments. In that segment section of the game, you get to play as the Knights of the Round Table, which is pretty cool. In addition to Sonic. Now, and also, Sonic then ventures into the castle to take on Mileena, but finds her to be too powerful as she has become the Dark Queen. But then, the Knights give Sonic their swords and he uses the power to don a golden suit of armor. He's basically become Excalibur Sonic, which is... It's basically Sonic in a golden suit of armor with a red cape, and Caliburn has actually become Excalibur. And it's actually one of my favourite super forms that Sonic has had. Because I just love it. It's just a cool design, and I wish they'd brought it back at some point. Sonic eventually takes down Mileena and tells her that while everything does come to an end, it's important to help them, and it's important to enjoy them while they last, which is a very good message. And I think that story is a very well-liked story amongst the Sonic fandom. And it's just honestly amazing. Now, the story in the game is absolutely amazing. One of my favourites as well. The gameplay is pretty cool. You use a Wii Remote and a nunchuck, and it's basically a massive upgrade from Secret Rings, where in that game you will hold the Wii Remote sideways and Sonic would automatically run forward. This time you can use the control stick to make him run forward on the nunchuck, and you swing the Wii Remote to attack enemies like you're swinging a sword. Now, I will admit that control scheme isn't perfect, because it can be a bit iffy, and a lot of people aren't really a big fan of it, but I think it's just okay. It's not the best by any means. Like I say, it's not perfect, but it's still functional. That's it. And the voice acting is pretty good as well. I mean, obviously we've got Jason Griffith back as Sonic, and we've also got all the different characters as well. And we've even got Tails in there as a blacksmith, which you can actually visit to get like upgrades and get attributes to your sword and your characters. Like you can make them faster, you can add different things to it, which is pretty amazing. And also, there are also these different missions you can play, like collecting enough certain of rings or defeating a certain number of enemies. And that's actually a little thing about the rings. Then there are no rings to collect in the game. Instead, there are these yellow fairies that you can collect, and they add to your ring total, which I think is a nice idea. It's like there's no rings, but they have these fairies, and I think that's a cool idea. I mean, there were rings to collect in Secret Rings, but yeah, I think it's just a cool idea that Black Knight had these fairies to collect. But the gameplay, it's still pretty cool. The graphics, they're fine for the Nintendo Wii, and the voice acting is still as incredible as ever. So if any of you guys have a Nintendo Wii and want a decent Sonic game, then I say go collect Sonic and the Black Knight for yourself. Or if you want to check out the entire Storybook series, get Secret Rings along with it. I've still not beaten the game, so a review on that won't be coming anytime soon, but hopefully I will be able to beat it at some point. But if you ask me, Black Knight, Sonic and the Black Knight is the better game of the Storybook series. That's in my opinion. But what do you guys think of Sonic and the Black Knight? Or what do you think of the Sonic Storybook series as a whole? Do you think it's good? Do you think they should have made the third entry like they were going to with Greek mythology? Do you think they should have done that? I reckon they should have done that. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. I will see you next time. And happy 400 subscribers, everybody.